Hey guys, you have found your way to Mortgage Sense with Kevin, a common sense approach to mortgages. And if you've ever thought about being an investor, if you ever thought about are you too young to own investment property, you need to listen to this. David Hanson, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I couldn't wait to get you back on, but somebody's got to take a vacation. And I hope you and your family had a great time last week. Um, so I opened it up like that because here's what I've been, going over our notes and what I've known about you since I met you 3 years ago. Um, you've been an entrepreneur all your life. Okay. Started at 13, 14 years old, making money for yourself. And I love that kind of story. And there's something in people, and it's weird because they either have it or they don't. Uh, for example, my wife, her job was when she was working. She's retired now, but she was an 8 to 5. She didn't think about it before. She didn't think about it afterwards. She didn't have calls. She didn't have emails. She didn't have anything like that. And I've been an entrepreneur for 46 years. That's all I know. Okay. Um, so I want to talk about, I mean, I'm not going to ask you how old you are. It's not. It's You can tell you're not my age, okay? But you own three investment homes now, right?
Uh, Two. I
You
own
own
three homes, but one I live in. Yeah.
Okay. So you have your primary, then you own two investment properties. How did you get into that?
Sure. So, like you said, when I was 13, 14, read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and that just kind of changed my view on everything. Both my grandfathers on either side of my family owned businesses, and I just, I wanted to be my own boss, make my own rules. And when I learned that, the IRS basically writes the tax code to benefit the business owner, that changed everything. Nobody, wants to pay taxes. So why not leverage lifestyle and work life balance to financially benefit you? So I started with eBay, and I just, 14 years old, went through my closet, started like selling stuff on eBay. And that kind of took me into a whole new world where I wanted to start importing products from China because my closet was running out of used toys. So then I started like looking abroad and trying to learn how to nurture relationships overseas to import products and sell them. And yeah, I mean, I tried a whole bunch of little businesses where you'd see ads on the internet or on TV. One guy was like teaching how to flip cars, and I tried all different kinds of things. And when I started, like, I entered the workforce at 14. Basically, my dad, I went to him and said, "Hey, I want a cell phone," and he was like, "Cool, you got to pay for it yourself." So he bought me the phone, but I had to pay the monthly bill, so I had to have a job to do that, and the allowance wouldn't cut it, because I now had this whole new look on life where I'm like, okay, I don't want to make $10 a week. I want to sell stuff on eBay, eventually get my money working for me instead of me working for my money. And I don't know, the eBay thing took me down a rabbit hole. Eventually, I got introduced to Amazon, and I scaled my Amazon business up pretty good. I think I was selling like $350,000 a year on Amazon, and I did that for quite a long time. Started to import products from China again, and it was called private labeling, where you put your own brand on like a specific product and sell it as your own, so there's no competition. But when I entered the workforce, I did all different jobs. I worked at like 9 different restaurants. I used to work at Best Buy installing car stereos. I went to college and got multiple degrees and certificates in accounting because I wanted to know how money moved through a business, so I could, better myself when I owned my own business, to know like how to keep my own books and audit myself to make sure I'm profitable. But anyways, 2008 or 9 came around, and on the radio and I think on TV, they were advertising something called the Trump Institute for Investing in Real Estate. It used to go around the country. And at the time, I really wanted to get into rental property. I had a girlfriend I was dating, and she was going to a university where her parents were paying the rent. And I was like, wow, like, I should just buy a house there. There's 60,000 students, and then I could rent out the rooms and I could live in one for free, potentially make a profit. So I went through that Trump Institute and, basically learned a little bit more. I ended up taking a real estate course, but not getting my license when I was 18. And then the Trump thing was just kind of a refresher. And then basically I took it to my dad and I was like, I need help getting qualified for more than I can afford. And this is why it makes sense. And I probably had like a PowerPoint presentation for him. And he was like, wow, I'm really impressed. Like, let's see what we can do. So started working with a realtor. I mean, we probably looked at 50 houses. I was probably driving him crazy. We did make some offers, but where I was buying, there was a lot of springs in the ground, and when the power would go out, the basements would flood if the sump pumps weren't on battery backup. And because it's student housing, most of it, there was a lot of beat up property. So anyways, we finally found one, got it. I got 3 roommates right away. I think the first year I maybe paid out of a $2,600 mortgage, I was paying like $180 a month. And then each year I would take all the rent profit and just put it back into the property, reinvesting in it, building decks and sheds and redoing bathrooms and the whole basement. And yeah, I had it for 9 years. It was great. When I moved out, I had major cash flow on it, but I moved here to Chattanooga and it was just hard to manage it far away. I did end up selling it, made a really good profit on it. And then I was new in town, so I had only been here one time before I moved here. And the people here, I just wasn't used to Southern hospitality. I'm originally from Maryland, so it's just different up there.
It's a little different.
Yeah, so we met with a realtor. I asked him how many deals he was closing a month. He said 8, and he was new. He had only been in the business for like 8 or 10 months. And I was like, man, I need to get my license here because I love real estate. It'll fund my investment portfolio. And yeah, it was great. So I joined by accident the top team in town for units. We ended up selling 43 homes that first year. And then, I just kept on rolling and ended up picking up some properties. And so, yeah, I have owned 3, but I own 2 currently. But yeah, I love it. And now I primarily focus on working with investors because I can kind of talk the talk and know the lingo.
Sure.
I'm on a forum called Bigger Pockets, which is probably the largest investment forum, online. They have a podcast and everything, and I get a lot of business from that. But I still help everybody else buy and sell. I enjoy the investment side for sure.
So what you're telling me is you can't make it in this country. I mean, you for a guy that doesn't want to work, you just can't make it. And that's the key right there, that doesn't want to work. Dude, I love this story. And I even found out even more today.
Yeah.
I love this story because what I love most about it is nobody's telling you what you're worth. Okay. And that's what I love about my business. That's why I'm a W-2 where you're 1099. In the loan business, we have to be W-2, but
yeah.
This is my office. I'm on a P&L. I make money or I don't make money. And I close loans. I make money. I don't close loans. I don't make money. So we are self-employed, but nobody's telling me what I'm worth.
Right.
And I love that part of it. And it's funny because when I first started looking for a real job after, I worked with my father. My father and I started a business that I was with him for right at 20 years. And when I left the family business, here I was almost 40 years old and had been self-employed for 20. Nobody wants to hire somebody that's been self-employed because they say we're hard to manage.
Right.
I don't know that for a fact, but that's the word on the street, is that we're hard to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, David, that is so fantastic. So do you think it's a good time? I'll ask you a question because I'm asked this question every day. In fact, I had a phone conversation about 30 minutes before we started this, And they said, is it really a good time to buy or should we wait? How do you answer that question?
Sure.
Let, us talk first on a primary residence, and then let's talk investment.
Okay.
I want your true opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm big on equity. And since I moved to Chattanooga, which was 2016, equity has exploded. Now, some of that can be contributed to the whole COVID thing where, materials got expensive, but
Sure.
Nashville has already exploded.
Mhm.
I look at a lot of different variables. So, where are people going? They're leaving big cities because of high taxes, and they're coming to places like Chattanooga because we have, this freshwater river, we have fishing, we have lake life, we have trails, we have high speed internet. If you can telework, or even if you can't, I mean, lifestyle is everything. And Southern hospitality, plus, we're in a state where there's no income tax. There's just so many benefits. So I think it was U-Haul or Budget. They basically posted something and said, here's where all the trucks are getting picked up and here's where they're getting dropped off. And we were like, in the top 10 for like drop offs, like people are moving to this area. And then I want to look at, okay, what is planning? So what are the developers doing? So I live out in Ottawa. And when I first moved here and told people, they were like, you live way out in Ottawa? And, I used to take the metro into DC every day to work before I moved here, and it was 45 minutes one way. So you can be downtown right on the riverfront from my house in like 23 minutes. To me, that's a short drive.
Absolutely.
And then all of our freeways are, fast. So it's great. But anyways,
people that don't live here don't know what traffic. Don't know what no traffic.
Yeah, I used to be on the Beltway and be stuck in traffic for 45 minutes.
I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and spent 2 years in Atlanta, Georgia. This is not traffic. Where we live it's not traffic.
Yeah, and all the locals know that. They're like, "Oh man, don't go to Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible. No matter what time of day, it's traffic."
That's right.
So, anyways, yeah, like I wanna talk to people that are sitting on the meetings for planning and like what are the developers doing. So, like in Ottawa, there's a whole bunch of residential neighborhoods being built, so that's good. That's growth. And then they're redoing the freeways, putting in more infrastructure because they know people are coming here. And then there's huge developers like down on Riverfront, the Bend. There's all these big plans. There's one in St. Elmo where they're like buying up hundreds of acres and they just have plans for commercial, residential, townhomes. And there's just so much plans for explosive growth. So I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see major influx and more equity gain. So, I mean, whether you're buying residential or you're buying investment on the equity side, I would say jump in as soon as you can. There's plenty of lending, options where lenders are getting super creative to make it affordable. Like we're waiving fees for refis because we all know in, 2-3 years, rates are going to retreat and it'll be but I mean, in 2 to 3 years, the money that you think you could have saved, you just missed out on the equity.
I did a case study about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
To show that exact for somebody that didn't wait, that bought 18 months ago, David, even with the higher rates, they still had gained on a $375,000 home. They still had gained like 45 grand.
Yeah.
And when they're and you're right, because the smart people in our industry, we know rates are going to come down. Mm-hmm. We know they're going to come down. And when they do come back down, if people are waiting, we're going to be back in that frenzy that we had 2 years ago, and it's going to jack the prices up even more.
Right.
And there's going to be multiple offers, and you're not going to be able to find anything.
Yep.
I think from an investment side because the key word of everything that you've just talked about, which is we are talking. This is going to be my longest podcast I had, and I don't care because this is great information. The biggest thing that you just said is equity. Okay, equity is king. Period. All right. we talk about generational wealth and what you're doing. You got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine? Now think about this. My oldest son, who I told you his birthday is today, his father-in-law owned 20 homes for 30 years. Okay. Now he's in his 80s now. He has sold all of his property. But for over 30 years, he had producing income that was passive income that he could have retired anytime he wanted to. Imagine by the time you're my age, what you could have and what you will have. Okay. I just think it's incredible. I do. I think it is, that you are doing a magnificent job. Uh, I know I'm not your daddy, but I can tell you I'm proud of you and I'm proud for you. We need more people like you. We need more people to listen to what you've got to say because you're a proven fact. You're a proven commodity of what can happen in this business. Um, let's do this. What's the best way for when somebody listens to this and we both put it all out there, what's the best way for them to how's the best way to them to find you?
So the best way would be to text me at 423-599-9907. You can call me, but I'm a realtor. I'm in and out of appointments all day long. So a text, I will either text or call you right back. Definitely the best. And then website, Hanson Capital. Capital is spelled CAPITAL.co.
.co.
Yep, not .com. That gets confused a lot.
It does. Well, guys, if you like this kind of information, hit like, hit subscribe. If you're interested in what David's been talking about, hit him up. Okay. He's got the facts. He's doing it himself. If you want to buy a home or investment property, he's the guy that you ought to be talking to. Number one, he's going to shoot you straight. Number two, he's going to be honest with you. And those are two of the main qualities that you're really looking for when you're looking for a partner. And of course, my name is Kevin Blair with Element Home Loans. Our website is kevinblairteam.com. Our office number is 423-488-7571. My personal phone number is 423-488-8465. David, I'm like you. We answer our phone almost 24/7. Sherry takes my phone away at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings until 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings because she knows if we're sitting in church, I get a text, I'm going to answer it. So she takes my phone away. Hey, brother, thank you for being on the show. I want to do this again because there's probably 5 different topics in what you've been talking about that we could dig into 1 or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very powerful information. So I'm making it here. I'd love to have you back on the podcast one day.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, guys, again, if you like this information, go to the like, go to subscribe, hit David up. I promise you, he answers his phone, he answers his text. David, thank you, sir.
My pleasure.